This week on Christian World News, President Trump issues a warning to Nigeria. Stop Islamic terror groups from killing Christians, or we might send in the U.S. military. Plus, the untold story of genocide in Nigeria. Islamic terror groups are slaughtering Christians. A documentary exposes it all. And the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Civilians are being slaughtered and millions starving. Who's helping these desperate people? Welcome to Christian World News. I'm Wendy Griffith. President Trump is threatening to send the U.S. military to Nigeria to stop the slaughter of Christians. Islamic terror groups have targeted Christian communities there for decades. Nigeria's government says it welcomes help in the fight against terrorists under certain conditions. Dale Hurd has the story.
After first denying the problem, the Nigerian government now says it would welcome U.S. help in fighting Muslim insurgents killing Christians, as long as its territorial integrity is respected. This after President Trump warned on Truth Social the U.S. military stands prepared to go into Nigeria guns a-blazing, claiming the country's government is allowing Christians to be slaughtered, and adding the Nigerian government better move fast.
On Nigeria, just wanted to ask you, do you envisage U.S. boots on the ground?
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Estimates of the number of Christians killed in Nigeria from Muslim extremist groups and sectarian violence since 2009 are in the tens of thousands. Some claim it exceeds 100,000. Nigeria is split nearly equally between Muslims and Christians. But over the last decade, the violent terror group Boko Haram and other extremists have increased attacks in northern Nigeria. Nigerian broadcaster and political commentator Cyril Abaku said if U.S. involvement makes Nigeria safer, Nigerians would welcome it.
We are at a level where terrorism is now a global problem, and our communities don't feel safe. And so if we have support from outside coming to say, we want to work with you to help stem the tide, I think we should buy it. This is something that we should welcome, frankly.
President Trump also declared Nigeria a country of particular concern, opening the door for State Department sanctions. Sunday, churches around the world took part in the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church. Ryan Brown of Open Doors U.S. says prayer is the most important thing the church can do for Nigerian Christians.
Our brothers and sisters, the thing that they have most asked for is to know that they are not alone. When the international body of Christ can come alongside on a day like the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church, that sends a strong, strong message to our brothers and sisters to let them know they are not forgotten.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thank you, Dale. Well, religious freedom advocates and at least one member of the U.S. Congress are taking action to stop the slaughter in Nigeria. CBN's Kelly Wright has this look at the crisis.
On this very day, 210 persons were slaughtered in one night, in less than 24 hours.
The video from the Father's Day massacre includes graphic images of people being burned alive, families attacked, and homes destroyed in Yelawata, Nigeria.
That very day, it was raining, so Fulani herdsmen, they invaded the community and claimed so many lives.
Around 12 midnight, we started having calls from Yelawata that the Fulanis have come and they are killing, burning.
Friday night, I was sleeping in my house. See my house there. I come here, they shoot gun. Later, they come, they break this house. Where my brother is sleeping here with his children. Thereby, they come, they kill people. They were breaking the house. Say, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
These first-hand accounts gathered by Truth Nigeria journalists describe the ongoing atrocities in a terror campaign to eradicate Nigeria's Christians. Judge Saul, filmmaker, and missionary, the organizer of Equipping the Persecuted, highlighted this documentary as a way to sound the alarm.
We need to fight this thing threefold. One, America as a government needs to get involved with a very little. I'm talking very little of our resources. If we just did the very little bit of push an aggressive foreign policy, throw some sanctions, whatever it takes, I think we can put a significant dent in this and put a stop to this.
U.S. Representative Chris Smith of New Jersey, who has traveled to many dangerous areas in Nigeria, has introduced a resolution in Congress to help stop attacks fueled by religious hatred.
There has been an exponential increase in attacks on Christians and some Muslims, but Christians in particular. Protestants, evangelicals, Catholics, they're firebombing their churches. The Fulani are killing them with absolute impunity. We've called on the government in Abuja and the president several times to do what governments do, law enforcement. Use the military if you have to, but stop this genocide and do it now.
The resolution points to Nigeria's government's apparent open border policy that allows almost free access to the country. Fulani militants and ISIS-linked extremist groups from neighboring countries take advantage of this policy to carry out mass murder, rape, and kidnappings.
We're also calling on President Trump to reissue, which he did in his first term, the designation of country of particular concern. And that then gives the president wide latitude to impose sanctions. It's an excellent bill when it's used properly. It gets the attention of all the policymakers, in this case in Abuja. It says, we're not kidding.
During a White House press briefing, I asked Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt about the crisis in Nigeria. And do you know if there's any action that the president will take?
I'm not tracking a call between the president and the head of Nigeria. I know the president wholeheartedly condemns the persecution of Christians or, frankly, of people of any faith all over the world, but I don't have any updates for you in terms of sanctions in this part of the world.
Looking beyond any government response, Judge Saul is calling on the church and Christians in America to stand with the persecuted in Nigeria.
They need to pray. They need to be a voice for the voiceless. They need to be a voice for our persecuted brothers and sisters.
Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Coming up, the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Civilians are being slaughtered and millions are starving. Who's helping these desperate people? Find out when we come back. Welcome back. Famine, mass executions, and attacks so brutal, the images of blood can be seen from space. The civil war in Sudan now capturing the attention of the entire world. The UN says RFS forces opposing the government have committed atrocities in Darfur, in one case killing 460 patients and staff members at a maternity hospital, and then going house to house murdering families. Incredible. The international Christian relief group World Vision is on the ground helping the victims of that ongoing war in Sudan. And Edgar Sandoval is president and CEO of World Vision and joins us now. Edgar, thank you so much for being on the program. The situation in Sudan, horrifying is an understatement, with reports of atrocities, famine, and 14 million people displaced. What can you tell us about the situation and what's led to these horrific events?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about this terrible situation, the largest humanitarian crisis in the world today. And I appreciate the opportunity to bring awareness to this crisis. I was at the border of Sudan with Chad about a year ago or so, and what I saw was unimaginable already. And the situation, well, continues to worsen. We've had women and children fleeing atrocities, violence from Sudan to Chad, and they get to Chad, and there's barely any good possibility to survive in Chad because there's no water, there's no food, there's no shelter. So a situation that was already dire is getting even worse. And as you mentioned, just last week, 400 civilians killed in a maternity hospital. The world just can't ignore this. And organizations like World Vision, through the amazing generosity of our donors, we're on the ground, we're responding, we're helping with clean water, with emergency food and health. But it's a challenging situation. 300 million people in Sudan in need of humanitarian aid. We're calling on world leaders to push for a peace deal and for humanitarian access so that we can do the work that God has called us to do and reach more of the most vulnerable people inside Sudan and in the bordering countries as well.
And Edgar, obviously, basic necessities of life, food, water, shelter. How can you elaborate a little on how World Vision is responding to these people that are crossing the border and trying to escape these horrific atrocities?
Yes, first of all, I just want to ask for prayers for our staff. Our staff put themselves in very dangerous situations to serve the most vulnerable. And they are doing that inside Sudan, and they're doing it as well in Chad. One of the things that is important to remember is that World Vision is the largest non-governmental provider of clean water in the world. So we have developed over 75 years an expertise to bring clean water to people in need, and that's exactly what's needed right now in places like Chad. We also have a strong track record of helping food insecurity people make a recovery. In fact, 89% of severely malnourished children that are treated by World Vision make a full recovery. And right now, we're doing that. We're doing that in Chad and in other places. As you know, the food insecurity situation in Sudan has now reached what is called the most extreme level, with a lot of lives at stake. And so those are some of the things that we're doing in Sudan and Chad and in many of the other most challenging places to be a child.
And Edgar, World Vision also responding to the massive hurricane that just hit Jamaica. You're actually working in partnership with CBN's Operation Blessing. Tell us how you're helping the hurricane victims there in Jamaica.
We're so grateful for Operation Blessing and for our partnership with Operation Blessing and also with our other partners. We are indeed responding on the ground in Jamaica, in Haiti, in the Dominican Republic. In Jamaica, I was just in a call with our on-the-ground response team, and what they're reporting to me is a devastation, an unimaginable devastation. And what's particularly challenging is that the part of the island that got the most severely hit was the mountainous area. And so there's been a huge need to get helicopters to deliver generators and clean water units. But we're responding with emergency supplies, with tarps, with shelter. There's a massive effort going on in Jamaica, and we appreciate particularly our church partners. We're working with the Jamaica Baptist Union. That's a network of 300 churches as well, to make sure that we identify the most vulnerable and we can get them the help that they need.
Yeah, I really think the prayers that were going out from Jamaica helped this hurricane not be as bad as it could have been, but it was still, like you say, very, very bad. Well, World Vision has announced a new program to reach 300 million people by 2030. Briefly describe the goals of this program. That's a big goal.
It is a big goal. It's actually our most ambitious goal in our 75-year history. But the Lord has blessed World Vision for 75 years. He's given us the ability to shine the light of Christ in the most difficult places around the world. In fact, we work in 40 of the 60 most fragile countries around the world. And right now, the needs are, well, increasing. Even before some of the recent crises that we're talking about today, there were over 306 million people in need of humanitarian aid around the world, 126 displaced. And this is before Hurricane Melissa. And so we believe that this is the time. This is the time of the church, the big church, both the local church and the global body of Christ, to step up to the challenge and put our faith in action. And one of the ways that we're doing that at World Vision is through our Everyone Needs a Believer campaign. I think we can all remember people in our lives who lend us a hand. And so we're calling on the church, on all people of goodwill and all people of faith, particularly Christians here in the U.S., to help us reach 300 million people with hope, life, and a future. And what that means is clean water. It means livelihoods. It means child protection, Christian discipleship, and all the things that these vulnerable, precious children made in the image of God need to have life in all its fullness. And so I'm inviting everyone to please check us out at worldvision.org and join this movement. This is a movement of God to help the most vulnerable during the probably one of the most challenging times in the history of the world.
Yeah, I like what you said. This is the time of the church. And speaking of needing help, you guys are training pastors to multiply the impact of local churches. Tell us about this.
Yeah, what a great question. Let me start by saying that at World Vision, we think the church is our indispensable partner. In fact, our very first partner, 75 years ago, was a church, Yongnak Church in Seoul, Korea, during the Korean War. And today, 75 years later, we are working with 50,000 pastors and church leaders every year. And that's because we believe that when the church is strong, communities get stronger. And that's because churches, pastors, church leaders, well, they help us identify the most vulnerable. They mobilize volunteers. They train parents on how to live biblical principles. And that sets the foundation for us to do our work in partnership with the communities. And so that accelerates the impact of any of our programs, clean water, livelihoods, health. We believe poverty is not just material, it's also spiritual. And that's why with the church is so critical for us.
Edgar Sandoval of World Vision, God bless you and all that you guys are doing. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Up next, it's been 75 years since readers first stepped into Narnia. See why this beloved classic endures to this day and how fans are keeping the story alive for a new generation. Welcome back to Christian World News. This year marks the 75th anniversary of a modern Christian classic. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis was published in 1950. To this day, the novel is beloved by young and old alike. CBN's Jenna Browder shows us how the story continues to reach new audiences.
From the beloved book to various stage adaptations to the big screen, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one of our culture's most well-known stories. The classic takes place in World War II England. The siblings Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy are sent from their home in London to live with a family friend in the country. It's there they discover the wardrobe that transports them into the magical land of Narnia.
I've had the honor of teaching college students for almost 20 years now.
Professor Christina Crenshaw of Arizona Christian University teaches a course on the book's renowned author, C.S. Lewis.
He would tell these biblical allegories through his science fiction, because he has, a whole history of science fiction. He's got this whole history of course, Narnia, and it would invite children into a world where they could see goodness and truth and get to know God as the creator in a way that I think lasts for generations.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is one of 7 books in the Narnia series. When the siblings enter this magical land, they're faced with good and evil. Edmund, tempted by the evil White Witch, is taken away, only to be saved by Aslan, the Christ-like figure in the story.
At face value, it's sort of like escape into the fantastic and the fantastical. But really, as kids start to engage the story, they realize this is spiritually forming me to rightly align my affections with what's good and what's true and what's beautiful. And I think it also highlights our human sinful nature as well. We see that the characters in the book, they're not flawless. They're not without their sins and their sin issues, but the overarching theme is redemption. It is a savior who comes back to redeem and restore and to take back that which has been captive by the enemy.
Publisher HarperCollins is celebrating the 75th anniversary with a major marketing campaign, special events at bookstores, and republishing of the Narnia series with new cover art. At Washington's Museum of the Bible, the story recently came to life on stage.
It's been so well received. It's been just wonderful.
President of the production company Logos Theater, Noah Stratton, says they plan to produce all 7 stories in the series.
Kids love it and think it's great, but then you have adults who are loving it. You have grandparents, and people always will ask us, like, well, what's the best age range to come and see this? And I always say, well, it's like the old Christmas song, kids 1 to 92. Everybody enjoys this because there is a beautiful simplicity while still having so many layers of truth.
The museum is also celebrating Lewis with an exhibit, The Myth That Became Fact. We spoke with curator Wes Viner, who points out Lewis was an atheist before turning to Christ.
One of his objections to Christianity was that it looked very much like all of this pagan mythology that he, as a scholar, studied and loved. And he thought the story of Jesus looked very much like this. He came over time to believe that maybe Christianity did not resemble those things because it was false. Maybe those things resembled Christianity because it was true.
One of the people who helped to change his mind was J.R.R. Tolkien, author of the Lord of the Rings series.
He converts to Christianity, and for another decade after that, he's still just an anonymous English literature professor working and teaching students over in England. He doesn't really rise to fame until in the midst of World War II. A producer for BBC Radio read his book, The Problem of Pain, and asked him to come give a series of radio broadcasts on the Christian faith in this very dark time. World War II, Germany is advancing, the whole world feels as if it's collapsing. And it was those radio broadcasts, which were later adapted into the book Mere Christianity, that really launched Lewis to international fame. He became this sort of spokesperson for the Christian faith, and then soon after, this famous fiction author as well.
And his legacy and that of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe endures. The Museum of the Bible is now showing a production on the friendship between Lewis and Tolkien. Netflix also has its own adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia in the works. It comes out next fall. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
And finally this week, thousands of college students made decisions to give their lives to Christ in Cincinnati, Ohio recently. At the latest event held by the ministry Unite Us, some 5,500 people sang and danced in praise. The ministry reports thousands in the audience made a first-time decision or a recommitment to follow Jesus. Hundreds of others were baptized in the parking lot. That's amazing. This movement is not going anywhere. It's exciting. Well, thanks for joining us this week. Until next week, from all of us here at Christian World News, goodbye and God bless you.